to the NBA, and when we talk about, the media rights deal that just went down, we're gonna go a little bit off court now, and then we'll go back to the encore. The NBA just signed a massive 11-year deal with ESPN slash ABC, NBC, Amazon Prime to broadcast their rights. The NBA on TNT is essentially going away, unless obviously something happens where TNT, I believe, has a 5-day window to match it. I said, Larador, I'm not as upset as other people that the NBA on TNT is going away. I don't really watch much of the pre and post game shows anymore for the NBA because I think the regular season has sort of been diluted. But I am concerned about the fact that the NBA has invested so much in this media rights deal to the streaming side, whether it's with Peacock, whether it's with Amazon Prime. Because I've said the same thing about the NFL, which is I'm okay with a Thursday night game on Prime or a random Saturday night game on Peacock. I get where the media and digital age is going, but I still think there is a lot of value in broadcast and in cable, both there specifically, especially when it comes to live sports, that I don't know if you're going to get the most eyes on your product being on a streaming service.
I was just gonna say that because not everybody has Peacock or Prime, so the viewership might be down. And if it's a marquee matchup, you're gonna want the most eyes on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw, but going back to the NFL for a second, there was a graphic on there that, in order to watch every single game for the NFL this season, you need YouTube TV, you need Peacock, you need ESPN Plus, you need whatever. And it's to the point where, and I've said that, even if you use one of these live TV streaming services, YouTube TV, Hulu, Fobo, whatever, you and I both know that those services don't have every single channel you need to watch all the games. So you really, I mean, it costs a lot in today's society to be a sports fan.
Right. Like on YouTube TV, you can't even get the Guardians game.
Yeah. I mean, and the regional contracts with Bowie for most of the NBA and MLB, and the NBA League Pass and the MLB extra inning package is expensive, so it's pretty wild. But what are your thoughts on the NBA and TNT as a whole not going to be involved in the new media rights?
Oh, I'm gonna miss it. I love NBA on TNT. It's gonna be weird, especially with the marquee matchups. I just feel like Shaq, Ernie, uh, Kenny, and Charles have a chemistry and bring a unique experience to the game when you're watching on TNT.
The interesting part I find is it sounds like from what I read, yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but after football season, they're gonna have a national TV game 7 days a week.
Yeah, I seen that. How do you think that's gonna do?
I said I am worried a little bit about overexposure. Are you going to put the Knicks on 3, 4 times a week? Are you going to put the Lakers on 3, 4 times a week? Boston, the big markets, etc. I've said a third of the NBA, your Charlottes, your Detroits of the world, your Washingtons. I have always thought the Wizards are just a franchise for the last 20 years that exists. Nobody knows who they are, what they are. They don't even know who or what they are. Um,
Right.
that worries me a little bit. I always said the NFL is so good because it's only on, 3 times a week, usually 1 time a week. But there's, when you watch all these games, they have a limited national TV dates. You get to see most of the league. So I find overexposure, I think, is going to be a potentially a problem.
I think sports betting has an influence on that too.
Oh, I
Cause now,
completely agree. That's a great point that I didn't think of sports betting when it comes to the NBA because I mostly think of betting when it comes to football. Even though I do bet a little NBA, I always find the NBA and especially baseball a lot harder to bet than football.
right? Like, but like I was saying before, sports betting, sports betting has a big influence on it. Cause now you get to see the smaller markets like Detroit, Charlotte, San Antonio, stuff like that. So that's only going to benefit the NBA as a whole. But like you said, overexposure can be too much. Especially, I just hope they don't get repetitive with the same teams over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get into the offseason moves and obviously all the drama surrounding it, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Celtics championship run. I want to ask you this question about the NBA draft because this year's NBA draft may be the most underwhelming NBA draft in history. I said I think there's going to be a superstar out of it somewhere. I don't know who it's going to be or where it's going to be from, but it always seems to happen. I personally did not mind the fact that Bronny James got drafted by the Lakers at 55 and Rich Paul pulled some strings because why not? I think it's a very cool story, and I think it's one of the only reasons why the National Basketball Association televised the second round of the NBA draft. But I do find it weird, Larador, why the NBA has seemingly distanced itself away from college basketball. We've seen the NFL embrace college football, over the last few years. The schemes are very similar, and coaches are bringing it in. The NFL brings on, college media people to their pre and post game shows now. So you really get a good feel of a player, especially from a bigger school and, with the expanded playoff and all that. A lot of these NFL, players in college by the time they get to playing on Sundays. In the NBA now, it's, the G League Ignite. It's the one and dones. It's guys, from overseas in France and other parts of the world where college basketball, it may out March Madness because of the fact there's not, as many chalk teams now. There's more upsets, I would argue, even more than what there was, 5, 10 years ago. But the draft now is not producing as many stars.
You, I, I, I think it's because not a lot of players are staying long enough in college,
Yep.
and they don't get uh developed to the potential they can in college, and then they uh come to the NBA not as polished as they could be if they stayed in college.
No, and I always said, I am fine if a guy like a Kobe or LeBron or whatever, if you're that skilled, if you want to go from the high school to the NBA, fine. But if you're gonna go to college basketball, you got to play 2 years. And the problem now with this NIL and guys are getting paid in the G League, I had said I don't blame these players for saying if I have this option to go to the G League and play professional ball for 1 year and get paid before I go to the NBA, I don't blame them for doing that over going to college.
Right.
So, all right, let's dive into the NBA offseason. There was two major moves out east as teams try to compete with the Boston Celtics. As the Celtics are obviously going to go back to back, which we've seen in the modern day NBA over the past 5, 6 years, been very difficult. But Mikal Bridges to the Knicks, Paul George to the Sixers. And I had said, Larador, I know me and you have talked about this for a while. Um, I am done with the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm done trying to pretend like that they're there. I'm done trying to defend Joel Embiid. I have defended Joel Embiid for years and he lets me down year after year after year. He can't stay healthy, and Paul George has an injury history in itself. So I don't think that this move is going to put Philadelphia over the top, even though I like Paul George as a player. And with the Knicks, as much as I like Mikal Bridges, I think Isaiah Hartenstein's a big loss. And I think they could compete with Boston, but I still don't think they're there yet, especially with this Jalen Brunson extension. They may need to move off some people.
Right. I think right now it's Boston's conference.
Yeah,
I think that they're the runaway favorites. Even if they didn't win the championship, I still think they're the best team in the conference.
Yeah, for sure. And you look at a team like Indiana, who I had said, I like them. I think they're a very good team. I did not think they were a conference finals team. I thought they got a break with, Milwaukee missing Giannis and part of Dame for the first round. And then obviously the Knicks getting all better to hell in the second round. And Orlando, I think, is coming, though I think they're probably a year away. Um, Milwaukee, I don't know what to make of them because Giannis hasn't been healthy the last 2 years, and they're very top heavy, which I don't think is a way to win in today's NBA. And then you have our Cavaliers, which while we have a new coach and a Donovan Mitchell extension, we have not made any moves.
Right. Kobe just sitting there, and all these other teams are improving, and we're just staying pat.
So, Larador, I have said that, Kenny Atkinson, me and you both agree on Bickerstaff. As I've told you in person, he coaches like a football coach. I never understood it. Detroit Pistons get used to hearing your coach scream for 48 minutes a game about absolutely nothing and bickering with the refs for absolutely no reason. Um, but I had said I think Atkinson could do something. We've seen him the use of bigs, turn Brook Lopez and Al Horford into 3-point shooters. We saw the way he used Draymond Green in Golden State. So maybe that helps unlock some of Evan Mobley's potential. But if I'm Donovan Mitchell, I give this team a year. And if they don't improve the roster, if they get eliminated in the first round again, if I'm Mitchell, I'm saying trade me.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to hear. But I can see your point. Because, yeah, he signed the extension. But what are we doing to improve the team around him? If
Yeah,
we if
and
if we're if we're staying pat, then there's no improving.
yeah, and we've seen guys in the past like an Anthony Davis sign an extension in New Orleans and 1 year later say, "Get me out of LA." It's not unprecedented. And again, a guy like Mitchell's caliber, I had said I don't give a crap if he signs an extension. I don't give a crap if the Cavs do change the coach. They need to make a move. I am not the biggest fan of trading Jared Allen. I know a lot of people are very upset with Jared Allen for the way he handled the playoffs and not taking the injection, which I totally understand that perspective. But this team is only going to improve if you improve the bench. Getting a Brandon Ingram or getting a Paul George isn't going to put the team over the top.
Right. And we need a a wing player. We need a starting caliber wing player at that three spot.
You know what I always said is very interesting is I like Max Strus, but I think he's a six man in a world championship team. I don't think he's a legitimate three. But I had said that, I think that they need a Karis LeVert or an Isaac Okoro type player, but more consistency.
Right. I'm surprised. Do you think we're gonna trade a Coral?
I've been wanting to trade him for 3 years. I don't think they're going to. I mean, the guy's been in the league for what, 5, 6 years? He still can't make a shot.
Right.
I mean, he's getting better, and yes, he's a great defender, but he's a number 5 overall pick. Back again when it still wasn't as much of a France or a G League, and that was sort of a weaker draft. But in order for a core to be justified as a top 5 pick, you got to be able to shoot. It's a make or miss league.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on the whole trade Garland, trade Allen scenario? Because I said if I had to choose one, I'm trading Garland because I don't think your two primary scorers can be, the same height, 2-6-1 guards. And I also don't think that Evan Mobley's body, and a lot of people say that they like Mobley, that he can grow and turn into a five. I think he's a power forward. And I've been saying it on this podcast. People are probably sick of me sick of me saying it, probably hearing a lot of rehash here, but I don't see his body being a five in the NBA. I think he's a Kevin Garnett or a Tim Duncan power forward.
Right. I think Evans a four. Uh, because if you put him at the five, he's gonna have to bang with uh Jokic and Valanciunas, and I just think he's too small. and too skinny for that. I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna bulk up that much.
So I want to transition from the East. We'll go to the West. There's a lot of young teams out West. Obviously, SGA, Anthony Edwards. You still got Jokic out there. Luca and Dallas, I think, are going to be good, not great. I think the Clay Thompson addition to me doesn't do much. I think Clay was sort of over the hill, would have been in his last few years in Golden State anyway. Um, but there's a lot of talk about this phase of the week. Is it gonna be, a Wemby? Is it gonna be Giannis? Is it gonna be Jokic? Is it gonna be Luca? And I think that for the first time in the NBA, because there is so much talent, again, a lot of that is international. There is going to be a scenario, I think, where maybe these guys trade off every few years, or maybe it's a 1A and 1B. I don't think we're going to have a definitive this is the guy anymore.
Me personally, I think it's Jokic. I
Okay.
think. I think LeBron gets the big name because he's been in the league so long. But I think the best player in the world is Jokic.
Well, yeah, I think we can all agree right now that Jokic is still the best player in the world, but phase of the week is a different conversation than, best player in the world. Phase of the week is, marketing, superstardom, guys being out commercials and all that. Jokic really doesn't do that, which to me is the issue because Jokic to me sometimes seemingly cares more about the Kentucky Derby than playing an NBA playoff game.
Right. Who do you think they can market well enough? Marketing in the NBA has like dwindled down.
Yeah, it's
It's
gone
more
down a little bit, and I think it's mostly because the superstars of today aren't I don't want to say as talented because they are as talented in terms of shooting, but they're not as personable, I guess, as the stars of yesterday. I think Wemby is very marketable. I think Wemby is humble. I think Wemby has the skill set to be that guy. And then if you want to look at an American, I don't think it's Jason Tatum. I think it's Anthony Edwards.
right. I love Anthony Edwards. He has that old school attitude, swag to him.
Yeah, I think he's coming. Now, I said I did not think Minnesota was going to beat Denver. I was shocked when they did. I did not think they were going to beat Dallas because I had said if Anthony Edwards got to the finals at what was he, 22 years old, you could have made an argument he did more. If he would have got that Minnesota team to the finals this year, you could have made an argument he's the fastest, growing NBA player or whatever you want to say in the history of the sport, as fast as he would have risen.
Right.
I mean,
The
nobody in the modern era outside of LeBron at 22, 23 got their team to a finals.
I was gonna say that outside of LeBron, he'd be the only one.
I mean, you look at, what Steph did, but obviously that took him years. What Durant did, that took him years. Even Jordan, it took him, 7, 8 years to break through.
Right.
Um, so I've been saying we'll sort of wrap up the NBA on this because I know obviously you're a big fan of LeBron being from the Cleveland area. He's been in LA for the past few years. There was no shot again of him that he was gonna join Cleveland or Orlando or Miami or Phoenix or whoever. He was always gonna stay with the Lakers. Bronny was always gonna be drafted by the Lakers. And we'll see how good of a coach JJ Redick is. I'm not going to say he's a bad coach. I'm not going to say he's going to be a great coach. I have no idea. Um, but I did say that I think LeBron will obviously never say this publicly because it would be a bad look. But I think privately, if you add him in a room with Rob Pelinka, Rich Paul, and his brass, I think he would tell you, I'm done chasing championships. I think he realized he's no longer going to pass that ghost in Chicago. And I'm using air quotes for those of you listening on audio for those 6 championships. And I think I'll tell you that, I had the most points scored in the NBA history. I lead the playoffs all time in points, rebounds, assists. I'm tied for the most game winning shots in the NBA history. And I think LeBron realizes that the younger generation like me and you and others who will never see Michael Jordan play, and the further we get from seeing Michael Jordan play basketball, longevity is going to be in LeBron's favor. And I also think now that Bronny's in the league, I think LeBron does not want a retirement tour, and I've been telling people this, and I don't know why it has not been brought up. But even at age 39, now going on age 40, I could see this being LeBron's swan song.
Yeah, yeah. I think he just wants to enjoy it at this point. I going back to your championship statement. I think LeBron looked at 2016 as uh as Jordan's equivalent to the 6 rings. I feel like he and a lot of others put LeBron ahead of Jordan with just how we won the championship.
Well, you know what's crazy? LeBron is the only person in the NBA history to win a to be the number one guy in a championship and win it with three different franchises. Obviously, Cleveland, Miami, and LA. Kawhi Leonard tried to do it when he went to the Clippers, and then obviously it's not happened. And I said, what a disaster that's been.
Right. Kawhi, Kawhi, um, the closest thing was in that was crazy when he went to Toronto.
Yeah, and I had said when it comes to the Clippers, and Phoenix is sort of in this category. I have no idea what the hell Phoenix is and what they are. They're Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and a bunch of nothing. And they're all three older stars that all get hurt. But the crazy thing about the Clippers is, and the Lakers were the best team in 2020, even before the bubble, so they might have won the championship that year. But I think the biggest question for the Clippers is what if the 2020 COVID pandemic didn't happen? Because that felt like the year for them to win the championship, and Doc Rivers was still the coach for them at that time, and it fell apart ever since then.
Right. I I feel like that would have been their best shot. I don't know. I just I just feel like the Clippers are overrated and have been overrated for years.
I agree with you, yet they're still probably fifth or sixth in the West. It shows the amount of talent there is. There is more talent in the NBA today than ever. I mean, you see, that's why all of these comparisons between teams in the 80s and the 90s versus teams of the 2010s and 2020s, and all this, would the 15-16 Warriors or 16-17 Warriors beat the 96 Bulls? And older school, train of thought would say no, because the older players are more tougher. But I said, what rules are we playing by? Because I think the new teams would just outshoot the old teams.
Right. And I always get in this argument. I feel like players now are more athletic and more faster. So I I feel like the older generation is tougher and they can get away with a lot more. But like you said, I feel like we would outshoot them, and then we would just blow by them.
Well, I don't know about blow by him because again, I think those guys are very good defenders. But I mean, you go back and look at a highlight even from games 10 years ago when scores were in the 90s. Now teams like Boston are scoring teams in the 90s in three quarters.
Yeah,
And yeah, a
the
lot of it is, the defenses, they don't play much anymore. I get it. And it's a 3 point and dunk, which sometimes aesthetically, I admit, is not the most pleasing to watch. I do miss sometimes when you have an old school big man to the basket and, they can dominate underneath. But again, the shooting is just so premier that eventually, that's why I defended Boston because they were really a championship team based off analytics, where they said, if we miss 23s in a row, that's fine. We're still going to make more than you do.
right. Do you think we'll ever get back to that way of just big man that style?
See, I don't know about that style, but I do think the big man is making a comeback. But I think it's a more skilled big man. You look at your Embiid's, your Jokic's, your Giannis's, and your Wemby's of the world.
Right, with the stretch stretch and can shoot threes.
Yep, it's basically the point forward now or the point center. because all of
Right.
these guys now, it's the same thing in the NFL when you look at quarterbacks. Why are quarterbacks coming in out of college more polished, more ready to start right away? Because they've been in 7-7 on camps. The systems now between college and the NFL are very similar. It's a very similar situation in the NBA. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.